But as Lisa mentioned, the next thing we want to talk about is how do you start this conversation if you've identified that your loved one is no longer safe or really it's not really in the best interest that they're home alone any longer. Or there are times, I should say too, that the older adult will recognize it, and that's always great, isn't it? But a lot of times we have to be the ones to bring it up, and it's touchy. This is one of the hardest decisions that people will have to make quite often. It's hard on the entire family. So the first thing that I wanted to mention too is that there's so many emotions involved, not only for the elderly person, but also for the family members. You know, you might be experiencing guilt and grief and sadness, etc., etc. And so you want to kind of, I think, step back first of all and identify what are the emotions that you're experiencing, because you need to get a little bit of a handle on that. Another good thing to do is have a script mentally prepared. Think it out ahead of time. Again, this is a real touchy situation usually, so it's really valuable to think about it ahead of time and come up with what it is exactly that you want to say, the key messages. Keep it really simple. Keep it simple and clear, especially if someone has some memory problems, but even if they don't, just try to keep it simple. Another point is to forgive yourself in advance. As I said, there are times that you recognize that your loved one is no longer safe or you have to make a move and you feel a lot of guilt about it. Because let's face it, none of us go through life saying, someday I'm going to go live in a facility. When I get older, I'm going to live in a facility, right? I haven't met them yet, if they have anyway. And you know, facilities have come a long way. We have somebody in the back saying, I'm ready. Because you know what? Actually, whether it's a nursing home or assisted living, we have come a long way. We have a long way to go yet. We understand that, and there's some great changes happening in our industry. But we recognize that for most of us, it's not something that we necessarily aspire to. And so we understand that family members quite often feel that guilt. So you really do want to take time to forgive yourself because you're in a tough situation. And you're making the very best choice that you can, but that doesn't mean it's easy. It still hurts. But please forgive yourself because you have their best interest at heart. That's really important. As you're explaining it, be factual rather than emotional. And again, we understand that there are a lot of emotions involved, but it's going to help you if you can try to stick with the facts. In other words, instead of saying something like, you know, Mom, you being in your home is just really ruining my life. It's making my husband angry with me. My kids are having a hard time. Please, you are making this so hard on me. Now that might be true, but again, that's your emotional feelings there. And so if you say something like, you know, Mom, you are just not safe in your home any longer. I want you to be safe. We can't keep you safe anymore. That's something very concrete. Can't argue with that. That's a fact. Well, they might want to try, but it's a fact. This is really important too. Give your loved one an opportunity to express what they're feeling. Don't try to talk them out of their feelings. I don't know about you guys, but I get really frustrated when I'm upset about something or have a strong feeling about something, and somebody I'm talking to is just like, it's okay. Don't worry about it. No problem. Don't worry about it. You just need to be able to say it sometimes. And so it's really important that, again, we recognize this is one of the toughest parts of their life probably, and we need to allow them to talk about it. Now, it might make you feel uncomfortable, but that's where we hope that you have some support. Then you can turn around maybe and tell somebody, oh my goodness, I feel so bad about this. I know this is so hard on them. But it really, really will help you in the long run, and I think even in the short run, if you really allow them to vent, allow them to express their emotions. Because if they have to keep those bottled up, they're going to come out somehow at some point. So it's really important. You know, at this point, you might want to mention it once, but I wouldn't dwell on the fact that, you know, you're going to make a lot of friends there, they have great food, you know, list all the benefits. You know, again, it's okay maybe to mention it, and to, when you go on tours, you know, they'll see that. But again, I think at the very beginning, they just need to deal with that grief of having to give up their home that for many of them, they've lived in for decades. You know, once in a while we even hear situations where that person's father or husband has built that home. I can't begin to imagine how sad that must be for them. We do have some ideas in a minute on how we can try to help with some of those things, but again, a lot of grief and loss going on at this time for everybody involved. So what we want to do is validate their feelings. And what that simply means is to listen to them, truly listen, and then once in a while say something like, I am so sorry this is making you sad. Or I realize this has got to be extremely hard on you. So you're validating, you're not trying to shut them down, you're validating what they're feeling. And that is, again, extremely important. Another good point is that we really want to make sure we leave them some room to make some decisions. None of us want to be told what we're going to do. And so obviously it depends on the situation you're in. You might be able to give them many choices, or you might have to narrow it down. For instance, if they're going to need to move to a facility, maybe you have done some homework ahead of time and you've recognized, okay, these 2 or 3 places we would feel very comfortable with having our loved one go into. We'd feel very comfortable as a family, and so maybe you offer these 3. Let's go visit these 3. So again, you're still giving them choices, but you might have to narrow it down. Obviously, if they have some cognition problems, you have to maybe narrow the choices even more, but it's really important that you do give them some of the choices and some of the decisions. And of course, when they do make that move, to encourage them to bring as much of their own stuff in there as possible. Assisted livings have always been great about this. Nursing homes are getting much better, as they should be. And we want them to take as many of their own things into that room or apartment as possible, because we all love our stuff. It's our stuff because we've chose it, and they have meaning for us. Memories, and so whether it be bedspreads, even as a relocation specialist, we do this a lot. We'll even go in and take a picture, say, of their bedroom, so that we can go recreate it in the new home, so that that clock is just right where it used to be, the box of tissues right where it used to be, so that they feel as comfortable as possible. Because obviously they're moving into a totally new environment that they're very unfamiliar with. Not only new sights and new sounds, new people, even new smells. We don't think about that. It's going to be overwhelming, the newness of everything. And of course, again, if we add some memory problems on top of that, it's really going to be tough. But as much as we can to have them bring some of their own stuff in there, it's going to be huge in their process of becoming comfortable. The next point I want to make is planning ahead. The further ahead you plan, the more choices you and your loved one will have. So often we professionals get those calls at the moment that family's in crisis. And maybe they have fallen and they've broken a hip, so they were in a hospital for a few days, and now the hospital says, hey, they're ready to go. We're going to discharge them tomorrow. But they can't go home. They're not safe. So where would you like them to go? And the family's like, if you haven't done some homework ahead of time, that's a real tough place to be. So we encourage people. This is probably one of the biggest messages we try to get out there. Do some homework ahead of time. Plan ahead. If you never need it, because there are people that can stay in their home forever. We don't know. We don't have the crystal balls to know what is their, where's their life going to take them. But we need to plan ahead at the different scenarios so that if a crisis does hit, we are ready. At least, again, we've got a couple really good choices that we could quickly make a decision. Really important.